Hi, my name is Brandon Baltes, and this episode of Perilous Dissent is going to be about the subject is capitalism and how much we have to be thankful for. It's going to be very. This isn't going to be like a very um, specific point. It's not going to be a very specific point that I want to make, but generally, I would just say the extrapolation is it goes something along the lines of this. A lot of people like to complain today about horrible things happening because of capitalism, because of the markets, because of the vicious nature of the markets, and because of what have you. Okay, there's a ton of problems today that a ton of people complain about, and I think people should have should take their lens and zoom out a little bit and realize 1,000 years ago there were no toilets, there was no running water. They didn't have microwaves. They didn't have TVs. They didn't have communication at the tap of a phone, of a screen. They didn't have. They weren't able to communicate with people tens of thousands of miles away. This was not. This was unheard of. This They would have called you. They would have claimed you were of a sorcery if you would have done that in the Middle Ages, right? You try doing that in some medieval castle. Try showing them a phone, right? It's magic. That's what it is. We have that stuff largely. I'm going to make the case in this video. We have that stuff largely because of the free market and because of capitalism. And today I want to talk about the competition and what sets apart the free market system from a system that is where the economy is mostly owned by the government. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. And actually before that, I actually want to say why I'm actually talking about this today. And the reason why is because I'm a college student. I go to Drury University. And in one of my classes, international relations is the class. Not 2 hours ago. Not 2 hours ago was the class. And we were doing this, and long story short, I was talking to somebody who was telling me a student that was telling me their most important event, global event that happened in the last 10 years, and it was the formation of the Black Lives Matter movement. I asked them after they gave some of their premises. I asked them, "What do you think about the organization founders being admitted Marxists? What do you think about that?" There was no discourse. There was silence, and I actually eventually was forced to move on to somebody else because the person didn't want to talk about it. Hey, it's fine. It's fine if we're not going to always talk. I understand it's a contentious subject. I don't know if it was a loaded question. I asked it with a straight face, non-sarcastic. I thought I was being pretty polite. I just asked them after they had told me what they thought. I asked them, "What do you think about that?" There was no answer. There was no discourse, as I said. And I think the one of the things that the generation that I'm in, which is Gen Z, has unfortunately been victim to, or I should not put it like that, but one of the big opinions of most of us is that there are a ton of problems now that are horrible, and we should strive to change the system dramatically and fix these wrongdoings and stop some systematic racism, which has always been here, right? And I just wanted to make the case that hey man, the Republicans of the 1860s fought the slave owner Democrats because of slavery literally for the reason why the North. The biggest reason, this I would argue, right? I guess you could argue this. I don't think it's debatable at all. But the biggest reason for the war was slaves. Was one side saying this is not okay. This is horrible. We've got to outlaw slavery. And the other side said no, we are not going to do that. And then the war was started for the battle, not for the, I shouldn't say battle for black rights, but battle for some black rights. And that was why the Civil War happened, largely. That was the single biggest reason, in my opinion, right? You could say it's because of states' rights, or you could say it's because of some other minuscule reason compared to the big reason, which was affecting black rights. And I think people need to realize that 200 years ago, slavery was going on all across the world, not just the U.S. And I think people should also realize that the U.S. was not one of the last places to outlaw slavery. There are places, think about this for a second, there are places today that have slavery, and the U.S. does not. The U.S. has equal rights for everybody. Although, if you want to, now, as somebody who's a supporter and somebody who thinks systemic racism, which is a very hard definition, which we're going to get into, someone who thinks there's systemic racism would say yeah, maybe there's equal rights. Maybe the Declaration of Independence states that all men should be treated equally before the law, but the amount of white men that are running things and the small amount of black men and black women who are running things, that shows that there must be some reason that they are not uh, prevailing and getting these high positions. And why are people not making as much? Why is the pay gap? Why is the wage gap a thing? Why are men making more than women? This must be because of things like this must be because of white males. The white males must be the reason why. They must be prejudiced against black people and women. And how else do they not make as much money for the same thing? Allegedly, this is what these people will say. And there are many things that one thing that I will say is that one reason why there are more white people than black people in jobs in the U.S. in total is because there are more white people in the U.S. So that's okay. I don't think there are that many educated leftists making that argument, but let's just set that straight right out the gate. Also, you've got the solution, the call to action, right? Let's say there is some racism. Let's say I agree that there is racism in the world, and I don't think there's anyone who denies there is at least some racism in the world. How do we fix that? How do we fix that? What do we do? Do we do affirmative action, which to my understanding is literally the opposite of what the North and the Republicans of the 1860s fought the Civil War for, which was they wanted they wanted no discrimination or no, they wanted meritocracy. They fought for meritocracy, to put it succinctly. They fought for people to get their position and their job based on their merits and based on their skill and abilities, not based on the color of their skin. And what we've seen with affirmative action, which is apparently positive discrimination, what it does is it basically looks at certain races and certain ethnicities and says, okay, you, because of your race, get this. You're a white male. Nope, you don't get any special treatment. That seems oddly similar to what happened in the Jim Crow era before the 1960s and during the prior to the Civil War and in the South after the Civil War, right, with the Jim Crow laws that I just mentioned. Oddly similar. And you may say, well, Brandon, it's not for white people are not suppressing black people this time. Black people would be suppressing white people in this time, right? So it's a little bit different if you want to put it like that. And I say, and although those people probably wouldn't say it like that, they would say, well, there's a discrepancy in the scores and the acceptances of black and white people. We need to equal that out. What I say to that is meritocracy. Meritocracy is key. I want you to look up the definition of the word if you don't want to, if you're too lazy to, right? I understand. Okay, I'll just give it to you right now. As I said, I already said this. It's people getting jobs and being judged based on their abilities and skills, not on their race. And with affirmative action, although it's not targeted against black people, or targeted to disadvantage black people, it is by definition racism. It is the definition of racism is believing the superiority of one race or one group based on the race. Affirmative action gives a race who is underperforming special benefits to even out with the higher performing white people. We don't want to selectively choose which race gets what, even to even out things, okay? Because I'll tell you right now, the affirmative action benefits that these black people are getting, oftentimes they hurt them more than helping them. Because of that extra treatment, because of those easier standards black people get, when they get in the real world, they get even more decimated than they would have otherwise by the people who got the normal treatment, which would be everyone who didn't get the special benefit for being a special color. Okay? What we have to understand here is that maybe the best solution to the, people say wage gap, people say this is the racism, there are instances where white people have been racist to black people. There certainly is some percentage of the population. I think it's objective. I don't think anyone is claiming it's very high, but any percentage of the population is too high, though, right? We don't want anyone that's racist. And people look at these black swan events, these very rare events where black people are objectively being discriminated against, and we say this is because of the system. This is because of the anti-black principles ingrained in the system of in the Constitution, in everything that America stands for. And what I say to that is, Well, I say a lot of things to that, but one thing you have to ask yourself is, why are black people still here? Why are black people not somewhere else? Why are black people not fleeing the country after the infamous George Floyd incidents that allegedly proved the undebatable now, apparently systemic racism of America? Why are they still here? Why do they? I'll tell you why. It's because there's no right in America that black people are deprived of that I have. There's no right that one race has that another doesn't. We all have the same rights. We're guaranteed that. Bill of Rights and the amendments and the beautiful Constitution, all of these great documents, the longest standing Constitution in the world, not because of the Constitution, but partly because of the Constitution. Constitution, if we did not have the Constitution, we would never have gotten to correcting the prejudices of the true racism of some of the founders, which were slaveholders. We got the great documents, like I said, the Bill of Rights, the amendments, and the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence as well. All those documents have gotten us to the point where today you can walk outside and if you're a black person or a person of whatever color, whatever it is, you can walk out and do anything with the exact same treatment before the law, with the exact same rights of anyone else. And although some people might say, why, we're just debunking fallacies in my opinion at this point. I don't want to sit up here and act like I don't want you to get the impression that I'm denying any racism happening. I'm sure there is a percentage, a small percentage, but a percentage of the population that seriously is racist. Sure, absolutely. But is it enough to justify systemic racism? No. Systemic racism, in my opinion, is a fanciful thing. Okay, the idea that a system that would grant black people and women suffrage and equal rights, the idea that a system striving for that would somehow have these principles that somehow suppress the black people and women's and minorities' abilities, it's inherently flawed in my opinion. It just doesn't make sense. Why would we have all these amendments granting women suffrage and having black people? Why would we give black people rights? Why would the Civil War be fought if people didn't want black people to have rights? It doesn't make sense. And this is the whole problem with the systemic racism thing, which let's just go over the definition real quick of the systemic racism, right? My definition at least. The belief that the essence of America, or the primary founding documents, or a good amount of the institutions, believing that a lot of those, or some of them, or one of them, is inherently racist because of, for whatever reason, right? I mean, let's just look. You know what? Let's just look up. Let's just look up systemic racism to see what they have, how they word it. Systemic racism. Institutional racism is a form of racism that is embedded through laws and regulations within society or an organization. It can lead to such issues as discrimination and criminal justice, employment, housing, healthcare, political power, yada yada, among other issues. So as you can see, that's pretty embedded through laws and regulations within society or organization. Yes, that does definitely fit within what I kind of try to explain it by. And this is the biggest problem of the Gen Z's the majority of Gen Z's thinking, which is the belief in institutional racism and belief in we've got to drastically change the system because it's institutionally racist. It's systemically racist. There's big problems in the Constitution. The slave owners that wrote the Constitution, they were not all slave owners, by the way. Only a portion of them were slave owners. We've got to change everything. The principles that they laid out, the stuff that they laid out talking about the government system, we've got to get rid of everything because they were racist. This thinking that is maybe not widely held, but certainly held by a sizable, significant portion of Gen Zers and young people. This is the biggest problem of them. This is maybe the biggest problem that America is going to face and the world is going to face over the next few decades, in my opinion. And I hope people can look at my perspective of, hey, this is a Gen Zer that sees all of the opinions and all of the people thinking that there is institutional racism. Hope they can look at me and see this guy has some well justified opinions that differ from the normal of this generation. Why is that? Let's look at it. Let's watch some shows of his. Let's see what this guy's about. I hope that's what this show and what this platform is going to do for us. Capitalism and the free market system, to me, are not the reason to blame, or they're not the thing to blame for the problems that have been going on forever in the world, which racism. I mean, it's been around for a while, man. It's not like racism just popped out of nowhere right when America was founded. There were still countries, there are copious amount of countries besides the U.S. that suffers from problems deriving from, as understood by the people, racist problems, racist reasons for those problems. Yeah. Capitalism and the free market system are not to blame at all. And if you think they are, you've got to substantiate something for me, because there's no law in the free market. There's no law of investing that shows that goes something like black people can't do it. Black people can't do the exact same thing that white people can. There's nothing like that. And, good luck trying to find a right that a black person doesn't have that I have. Good luck. It won't happen. It won't happen. That's the beauty of America. That's the beauty of America. And that's the beauty of the creation of America. The founders, although they founded the country with having slavery legal in many states, they gave the Constitution the malleability to be bended but not broken. And because of it, through various amendments in the Bill of Rights especially, we now have a country that has all types of people with the exact same rights. One of my favorite documents, maybe my favorite one, not because of I think it was more important than the others or more vital in what we now call America, but because of what it represented, which was the departure from England and a formation of a new country. One thing that I love, one of my favorite documents, the Declaration of Independence. As I said, and this is the beauty of it, as I just kind of said, extrapolating a little bit more on that. The Declaration of Sentiments, which was drafted by a suffragist named Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I probably butchered that name. This document was kind of trying to elaborate more on the Declaration of Independence. And the document called for this new document, the Declaration of Sentiments, that was going off of the Declaration of Independence, called for equality with men before the law in education and employment. And this was signed by 68 women and 32 men. This was in 1848. Declaration of Independence was much, as you all know, I'm sure, was much before that. But the malleability of these statements to be able to be bended not broken, and being able to fix things like, hey, why is there not equality? Why do women not have equality before the law? Why is that not listed in there? We were able to fix things like that, and now today we have it. We have it today, and that's the beauty of it. And to conclude this video, capitalism and the free market system are not to blame. These things are not to blame for the alleged systemic racism, at least by many people in my generation. That even if it was a thing, it's not a thing. Let's not even do the if it was a thing. Okay, it's not a thing, and there's no evidence supporting a largely racist system of America. There's nothing there. Why would there's so many problems with that? And it's another topic for another video. We can go into the meticulous details there. So without anything else, thank you all so much. Feel free to check out Auspicious Dissent on YouTube, which is the finance channel of mine. Thank you all so much. I will see y'all in the next one.